Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the great Tony Peck. He is a TEDx speaker, an amazing speaker. He's also a business growth coach. He's going to share his journey next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, as you saw in that show open, I've always admired hustle and grind, and that perfectly describes my next guest. Tony Peck is in the studio. He's a TEDx speaker. He's a business growth coach. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you on the show because I think you and I have similar upbringings where, you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Everything that you've achieved in life came through grind and hustle. Yeah. So let's start in the early days. So how did this start for you?
Sure. So I've grown up from a traditional Italian-American background. My grandparents immigrated here from Italy. So all I knew was working hard to get to where you want to be in life. I was fortunate enough, my grandfather owned a pizzeria when I was young, so that was my first job when I was 11 years old. Wow. And I've never looked back since. I've always been working. I was shoveling snow on snow days and, selling Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon cards back in the day. And then I went to high school, didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I just wanted to make money. I wanted to get out of the lack of money that we had when I grew up as a kid in my family. So I said, what could I do? I was good at math and science. And again, I wanted to go to school, make money, but I didn't want to go to school too long. Yeah. So I said, engineering could be a good opportunity. So I went to engineering school and college, and that's when I really saw my entrepreneur spirit bud even more. Because back then, entrepreneur wasn't as sexy of a topic.
Right.
But then I started my first company. I was a freshman. It was a lip balm company, Tony's Lip Care, TLC for short.
Love that.
And I would go dorm room to dorm room, knocking on the dorms, and I would sell my lip balm. It was natural and organic, tinted peppermint, original, strawberry flavor. So I remember to this day.
Yes.
And while I went through college, I said, okay, well, I'm graduating in a few years. What do I want to do after this? Because engineering isn't me. Like, I'm very social. I like talking to people. I like engaging, but I'm very smart with numbers and the critical thinking.
Yes.
So I said, where can I go to be around guys that I want to become more like? And I didn't have much money in college, right? I was just trying to hustle and grow and do what I could. So many things to get me around the people I wanted to be like were out of the budget. But cigars were something I always assumed people that had success would smoke. And because I went to Manhattan College, right outside of New York City, it was a quick train ride away into Manhattan, where there was a mecca of cigar lounges. So I went to my buddy's dorm room one day. It was 10 guys. I said, guys, I want to go to a cigar lounge. Like, I think we can meet really great people to learn from. Who wants to come with me? And they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what, are we going to go hang out with a bunch of old men? And I said, you know what? I don't know. I've never been. Let's go together. Long story short, nobody came with me, but I went by myself. I hopped on the train. I went to Nat Sherman, and at that time, there were 6 guys sitting around a table. I sat down next to them. They all didn't know each other. And I said, hey, I was 20 years old at the time, still couldn't even legally drink. I said, hey, I'm brand new to smoking cigars. Do you have any recommendations for me? The guy next to me, like, yeah, try this. The guy across from the table reaches out of his back pocket, pulls out a cigar. Here, kid, try this.
Wow.
How old are you? He was 20 years old. Oh, wow, you're my son's age. You're my daughter's age. And they were so excited I was there to listen to them. Because, of course, as a kid, you don't typically listen to your parents too often. But me, I was there to learn. I wanted to be a sponge. And that completely changed the entire trajectory of my life. From then on, until I graduated college, I went to more cigar lounges. I built a really deep Rolodex between Rudy Giuliani, the Prince of Finland, the owner of Bacardi. And by the time I graduated college, I said, there's something more to me to do in life than this engineering stuff. I had the degree, but what can I do further? And that kind of catapulted me to where I am today.
And you have a very successful digital marketing company. Let's go ahead and pull up the website. And as we scroll down the website, talk about the kinds of clients you like to work with.
Absolutely, yeah. So I focus on professional service-based industries. So think mortgage, finance, real estate, insurance, contractors of all different types, and then retail-based businesses. So restaurants, body shops, gyms, salons, jewelry stores, businesses like that want to get more leads and sales.
Yes.
That's specifically what we help with. We're not there to make you go viral. We don't help influencers and athletes. But if you have a business, whether you're doing $1 million a year to about $50 million a year, we can come in and help you generate more top dollar revenue and even enhance your profit bottom line too.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan because we have a marketing company as well. Most people kind of forget about digital marketing and getting those leads in. So when you go to, like you mentioned, like a jewelry store, there are very successful jewelry stores in Manhattan, and they have neglected digital media.
Exactly.
They're not bringing in leads. And so how would you work with a jewelry store?
That's a great example, because a lot of times the business I work with, they've been in business for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, and they have a really strong offline presence. But you're going to lose market share to the newer businesses that are taking advantage of where the consumers are. So if I would go to a jewelry store that's been around for a while, I would say, listen, you guys have a really strong offline brand. We have to just strategically bring it online now. So you're not losing the market share to someone new that's just coming to the scene and going where their attention is. So it comes up with creating a really strategic plan between the content they're going to be putting out there, the engagement strategy, the frequency and the cadence of when they're posting, and then helping them execute all those line items.
Well, I'm so impressed with Tony because I've given thousands of speeches myself, but I've never done a TEDx.
I appreciate that.
And maybe you can educate people. A TEDx speech is timed, so you have a certain number of minutes on the stage.
Yeah, so this actually, I haven't talked about this yet on the show, but it was the most difficult speech I've ever given, because all the speeches, I've done hundreds of speeches in the past, but it was always about my subject matter. So I never had to rehearse it, I never had to put a speech together, I never had to memorize it. The TED Talk, though, it has to be approved, and you have to memorize it. So first I had to come up with my first speech ever, and then I just pretty much locked myself in a room from a Friday night till when I gave the talk that Tuesday night, and I just kept rehearsing it while listening to it. And then eventually 2 days later, I was able to start practicing it. And then once you go on the stage, it's game time, and you got to hope that all the work before lets you go on autopilot when you're on the stage, and that's what's happening.
Tony is a natural. Let's play a clip from his TEDx speech.
Thank you, guys. So, standing on this stage to give a TEDx talk is a moment I've dreamt of for the past decade or so. However, no one would have assumed or believed this would be my future as a kid. And the reason being was I grew up with a speech impediment, and I was made fun of for how I spoke. Yes, I, your speaker, was made fun of for speaking. I would say words like dwink instead of drink, twalk instead of truck, pita instead of Peter. Clearly, I was not born with an innate skill of being a better communicator than any single person in this room. But yet it never deterred me from striving to become the best I can be at it. As I got older, I quickly learned it's much more difficult to become a great communicator in today's modern day. With phones, computers, and technology advancing faster than ever, it's changed how we all communicate. You see, I believe it stripped away the ability for us to communicate with each other and strangers, both verbally and in person. And we all see it in everyday life, from people being unable to hold conversations, unable to listen to each other, cutting people off when they speak, being on your phones at dinner instead of talking to one another. The list goes on. This problem is ever so prevalent in my generation, and even more so to those younger than me. But I'm here today to offer an idea that I think can be a solution. I believe cigars can be the spark our world needs to help us communicate better, create relationships, and connect with those from different backgrounds that we never would have the chance to connect with otherwise. And yes, you heard me right, cigars. Now, contrary to popular belief, I was not born with a cigar in my hand. In fact, I didn't have my first cigar until I was 20 years old. Just 10 years ago, I was a junior in college. I also didn't get into cigars with the intent to become a better communicator or to create relationships. I simply wanted a hobby. Now, you see, I come from an extremely hardworking blue-collar father, which meant I didn't grow up dirt poor, but I also didn't grow up rich. My father provided everything necessity for life: food, clothing, shelter, and love. But I, as many of you do, wanted more for myself and my family. And so I wanted to choose a hobby that would put me around those that lived the life that I desired. Well, as it turns out, there's not too many cheap hobbies to get around successful people as a college kid. Country clubs, expensive restaurants, luxury gyms, premium memberships to communities and lounges, these were just out of the budget for a broke college kid. But I did see cigars as something the Michael Jordans of the world would do after they achieved a great accomplishment. And so I always associated cigars as something the wealthy and successful did. Well, lucky for me, cigars has an extremely low financial barrier to entry. You can get a cigar for $10 and smoke in a cigar lounge for 2 hours. They'll never kick you out. So with that, it had been decided. Cigars was going to be the hobby I took up to pursue the life I wanted and get connected with people that lived the life I wanted. Well, fortunately, I went to Manhattan College, which was just a quick train ride away from New York City, where there was no shortage of cigar lounges with prominent and successful people. So as excited as I was, I figured it would be more fun if I got to go with friends. So I go to my friend's dorm room, and I tell him this amazing idea I had that I want to go smoke cigars in cigar lounges in New York City to be connected with successful people. Well, it was not met with the same level of excitement that I had. It was actually quite the opposite. My friends looked at me like I just spoke a different language, and I was out of my mind. One of my friends said, "Why would we go hang out with a bunch of old men?" But that was just it. I wanted to be around those older men because I knew they had more knowledge, experience, and wisdom than me. And I believed it was an opportunity for me to get around them, to connect with, and learn from them.
Impressive. And so as you take that cigar lounge experience, I mean, how did that shape you? What did you learn from these people?
So one, I learned how to communicate more effectively, being able to actively listen better, and also be able to push along a conversation by asking thoughtful and curious and genuine questions, but also a level of maturity that most people at my age never had the access to be able to be around.
Yes.
Because those guys were 50, 60, and super successful.
Yes.
So the things they were talking about were such a high level thinking that most people never were exposed to, no matter where you are in the world.
Right.
So that really helped my maturity at a completely different level, and it helped me network effectively with people from backgrounds I never would have the chance to meet with otherwise.
And Tony, they were very welcoming. I mean, they wanted, like a 20-year-old,
Yeah.
Wants to hear what I did.
Yeah.
And it's impressive.
That's what it was. It was a combination of, I was their kid's age, so like my kids don't listen to all the knowledge I want to spew on them, but this kid is willing and happy to do so. And they knew my upbringing where I wasn't exposed to this. So a lot of them that were self-made, they saw me in themselves, which was pretty cool. And they wanted to be able to inspire and help me to get to where I wanted to be.
Wow, so impressed. We're going to pull up your Instagram page, and as we scroll down the Instagram page, I mean, there's just all of these wonderful shots of you hanging around very successful people. Tell me about your digital marketing company, and how do you help your clients?
Yeah, so we're Forbes accredited digital marketing and social media agency. And like I said, we specialize in professional service-based industries and retail businesses, but our premise of business is consulting on business growth strategies by leveraging social media the right way to generate more leads and sales.
And you were telling me a story right before the show about a mortgage company that you helped.
Yeah, so one of our first clients back 7 years ago was a mortgage company. They were kind of small at the time. They had about 15 people on the team. And they were like, we want to take advantage of social media because we know it's the hot thing. And I do believe, by the way, most successful business owners I've met that have been successful for 20 or 30 years, they're successful because they don't turn a deaf ear to something new. They're not saying, oh, social media is new, it's a fad, I'm not going to lean into it. They say, I see something coming to the market, let me invest some time, money, and resources to try to take advantage of it before my competitors do. And that's what this mortgage company did. So they brought us in, and we helped get them from 15 employees to about 65 employees by leveraging social media. And I think at the time they were doing somewhere about let's say 200 million in loans, and then by the time we were done with them in about 3 years, they were doing about 800 million in loans.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So kind of walk us through this. So you specialize in lead generation. So somebody comes to this mortgage company's website, you kind of know who came to the website, and you can retarget and you can market to them.
So a little bit differently, we're helping all the different mortgage loan officers build their own personal brands around their own uniqueness. So for instance, we had one mortgage officer in that company, he was a fireman. So we leaned into that because he was getting a lot of the guys at the firehouse, and then other first responders wanting to do business with him because he's putting on social media. Separately, there's another person that was really big into fitness. So we tied into fitness acronyms and little ironies that had to do with mortgages from being able to leverage that knowledge of the fitness with mortgages at the same time.
All right, Tony, we got about 3 minutes left. So I want you to talk to the Gen Z out there, because something that I'm experiencing is a lot of young people, they don't value grind and hustle. They just want to get it easy and not put in a lot of work. But grind and hustle never goes out of style, does it?
Yeah, listen, at a certain level, you're going to get to a point that you're competing against all people that are extremely smart, connected, and they have resources. The one biggest separator then becomes the hustle you're willing to put in to get ahead of them. And I truly believe that you can achieve anything you want in life if you put your mind to it and you're willing to work for it. Someone like me, I have very large goals. So if you have large goals and you're listening to this, what you need to understand, large goals require large sacrifices. And that looks like not going on vacations I didn't go on vacation when I was in high school. I didn't do the class trips or the weekends to the Bahamas or wherever they went. Same thing in college. I just started traveling recently now for business. But you have to make those sacrifices knowing if you want to live an extraordinary life, you can't do ordinary things.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest thing a lot of younger people don't understand.
And if you look at the most successful people on the planet, the Elon Musks of the planet, I mean, they're grinders. I mean, like even Elon was like on the floor of Tesla and on the floor of SpaceX when they were about to go bankrupt, famously, like, a decade ago, Tesla and SpaceX was this close to bankruptcy.
Yeah, and he grinded through it. When I first started my business, my first year and a half, I slept in my office 5 nights a week. There was no shower in the office, but it was just easier to work 18 hours while being there, waking up, and I have my to-do list right there in front of me. And that's what it takes, though, right? It's taking a lot of saying no to things that regular people have to say yes to.
Yes.
And you're going to lose some relationships, you're going to lose some friendships, but you have to debate whether the goals you have are bigger than the no's that you're saying yes. So you have to say no now for saying yes to something in the future. That's how I look at it.
Wow. Tony, you inspire me. I can't wait till you write your best-selling book, because I'm going to be the first person in line to buy that book. Let's go to his website to end this segment. It's whynotyoumedia.com. The great Tony Peck. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I appreciate you.
That's it. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.